Okay, good afternoon, students. I'm here in the Doral College's executive offices again, and I'm meeting here with House of Representatives member Mr. Manny Diaz from District 103. 103 is northwest Miami-Dade County, including Hialeah and parts of Doral. It's the city of Doral. Mr. Representative Diaz, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us a little bit of your experience on the Education Committee in the Florida House of Representatives, we would appreciate that.
Well, good afternoon, students. And first of all, let me share some of the structure of the Florida House. So, the Florida House is divided into committees and subcommittees that deal with a specific area. I am fortunate to sit on 3 education committees, and the main one is the full education committee, which handles both college policy, university policy, workforce policy, and also K through 12. So basically, we deal with all the laws that affect you as a student, both if you're in high school and at the college level, if you attend a public school. We also deal with the funding. And so I'll talk to you a little bit about the difference between policy and funding. In our committees, when we deal with funding, it's basically a budget that is put together. The budget is put together in parts and then presented to the full appropriations committee for approval before it is negotiated then with the Senate, because we are a bicameral legislature, and then presented to the governor for his signature. The education portion of the budget affects state schools at the college level directly. It also affects the per student funding that you receive, whether you attend a traditional public school or even a charter school. And per student funding means the amount of dollars that are allocated to your school for one school year per student. And so that the way that formula is figured out is depending on what services students receive. So in my experiences on committee in dealing with these type of issues is, so everybody in the public and you know, oftentimes the governor who uses the bully pulpit to try to affect policy always wants to say that we want to increase funding for education. But what does that really mean? And how do we make sure that the funding that we're providing at the state level to the district actually gets down to the classrooms? One interesting formula that I want you to explore this year, and I want you guys to kind of maybe do some research on, is something I call schoolhouse funding, in which the dollars that come down from Tallahassee, instead of going directly through the district, they go directly to the school site and follow each particular student at the school site, with the district only able to take a percentage for administrative fees. That's not the way it works right now, but I will leave that open for you guys to do some research on how much of the money actually trickles down from Tallahassee to your classroom, and with the district not being in between. That's one. I think that's one assignment you enjoy and one discussion you should have with your professor. Second portion is how colleges get funded. And so we talk about the restrictions that are placed, the way that the state schools are structured in Florida. There is a board of governors for each school, and there is a chancellor and a board of regents that oversees those boards of governors. And so each school has the ability to raise tuition to a certain point. The state legislature is the one that we determine what that point is. And so we give them leeway on how much funding they can provide themselves through tuition. And then there's other fees that are charged at schools. When you're attending a school like FIU, for example, they charge an athletic fee, and then there's books and things like that. But the state funding that's affected by the legislature is how much tuition can a college actually charge. The governor last year challenged our state schools to go ahead and find degree programs that a student can go into school and leave with a degree under $10,000. So I'll let you guys go and Google and do some research on that and how that turned out. And there were some schools in the state of Florida that met that challenge. And so now I want to review policy a little bit. So you guys, I'm sure, have gone over how a bill becomes a law, and in the Florida House, it's very similar to, you know, the U.S. Congress. But when it comes to educational policy, what happens a lot of times is we have to be careful with something that's called germanity. And this applies to all bills, but when we talk about education, what this means is you cannot have a bill going through the process in the Florida House and all of a sudden add an amendment to that bill that has nothing to do with the specific content of the bill. For example, if I'm doing a bill related to virtual instruction, I can't add something that has to do with capital improvements for charter schools, or, you know, hard-covered textbooks at regular public schools. It has to be germane, and I'll let you do a little research on what qualifies as germane and who determines it. The final determination on the germanity of a bill rests with the rules chair in the Florida House, and the way we're structured, we have a rules chair. That's something else that I'd like to challenge you guys to look up the structure of the House and what the rules committee and rules chair does. That rules chair's ruling can only be overridden by the Speaker of the House. So the Speaker of the House kind of has final say on everything that has to do with germanity, but through the rules chair. So one of the things that I'll ask you to look at today is the instance of germanity when it comes to an amendment, or amending a bill that's already in the process. And I'll let you look up some of those rules. So I've promised your professor that I'll be back, and hopefully the next time we speak, I'll be talking to you guys from the Florida House chambers in Tallahassee or from my office in Tallahassee, and we'll be discussing some of the current topics that you have in your course. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your course.